So good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's education event, the basics of anti-inflammatory eating. Thank you so much for joining us, taking time to be with us this morning. This is going to be a Q&A session, so we ask that if you do have any questions, please put them on the chat box and we'll get to them towards the end or sometimes in between if it's the conversation, but we'll try to get to as many questions as possible. My name is Aurelis Cortez, and I am the event coordinator at TurningPoint. Most of you, if you're here, you know that TurningPoint is a 501c3 nonprofit, and we're able to bring these education events to you without charge because of what we call our socially responsible partners. These are some of them listed here. We also have individual donors that support these events, so we're just thankful for the community support. As always, as a 501c3, if you're ever inclined to make a donation, if you appreciate today's information, just go to myturningpoint.org and feel free to make a donation there. So we thank you again for your time, and I'll go ahead and turn it over to our fabulous dietitian.
Oh my goodness. All right. Well, good morning, everybody. We've got a good group on. So, and like Aurelis said, if you have any questions, feel free in the middle. You can go ahead and type that question. She will go ahead and ask me. It's fine. This is kind of casual. That's how I like to keep it. But so we're going to start off like, what is inflammation? Okay. It's a simple question, but what is it? And it refers to, your body's process of fighting against something, fighting that harms it. Your body is a wonderful mechanism, and it's always trying to protect itself. So it's trying to fight infections, injuries, toxins, anything foreign in the body. So, and we can have chronic inflammation. We can have like a temporary, I don't want to say it's a temporary inflammation, but if you beat up by your elbow, you're like, darn, that hurt, and your body is a little bit inflamed. So inflammation, and we're going to talk a little bit about what we can do food-wise to help decrease inflammation in our body. And inflammation comes in and also with if we look at arthritis, chronic inflammation is this one, and an anti-inflammatory diet absolutely does help with arthritis, and that is a lot. If I have some patients that have rheumatoid arthritis, this is something that we go over. I go over this with actually everybody, but for my arthritic patients, everybody in the breast cancer or cancer realm, I go over as well. So let's get started with this. So chronic inflammation plays a role. It can contribute to the development of cancers, heart disease, diabetes. Okay, so we want to, if we have an issue, say for instance with inflammation, so we have arthritis, we'll just talk about that. It's important that we don't make that process even worse or that inflammation even worse. And so today we're going to learn about how we can calm that beast. Studies do show that if we have a pro-inflammatory, meaning a diet that causes inflammation, that it can cause a premature, you're at more risk for premature death, okay, caused by that. So it is important. And, the food that we eat is exactly what we're going to be talking about today. So the interesting thing, and the studies do show that for our breast cancer, for all of you, for breast cancer survivors, if you follow an anti-inflammatory diet, you have a 56% lower risk from dying from cardiovascular disease. And I know that is one of the things that we always worry about in breast cancer is, our heart and the cardiovascular end. So following a diet like this is hugely important. 56% lower your risk. So it's well worth it. So cardiovascular disease is a leading cause of death among the breast cancer survivors. So we survived, breast cancer, and years down the line, our cardiovascular system does take a hit with the chemo radiation. And so that is one of the things that we are most at risk for. So we need to watch these foods. Studies do show that the quality of your diet is important for overall survivorship. And this is what I talk about all the time. So this is nothing, I feel like I'm repeating myself, but nothing new. So our diet does play a big role. Okay, so what makes a food, or what makes a food anti-inflammatory? What is it, where is it, why do we call it anti-inflammatory? So omega-3 fatty acids are huge in the anti-inflammatory realm. And now our omega-3 fatty acids are one that those are essential, meaning that our body doesn't produce them. We focus on omega-3 fatty acids because our American diet, we don't get enough of them in. And so those types of fatty acids are actually anti-inflammatory. I do have an anti-inflammatory shopping list that I give with all my individual patients there. So for those of you that I have already met with, you should have that. And on that list, it does show you most of, we have our proteins on that list, and beef and chicken don't fall in that category of anti-inflammatory foods. And the reason for that is because, chicken is kind of neutral unless you eat the skin, because the skin is saturated fat. And we're going to talk about that at the back end. But we have our fattier fish. So our salmon, our mackerel, tuna, those types of things have more omega-3 fatty acids, which make them more anti-inflammatory. We have other omega-3 fatty acid sources. I'm big into chia seeds, big into flax seeds. Omega-3 fatty acids are higher in grass-fed beef than they are in regular beef. And, according to the American Institute for Cancer Research, our red meat consumption should be less than 16 ounces of cooked red meat per week. So in those 16 ounces that if we do allow ourselves to have, I always recommend and encourage to get grass-fed beef, because grass-fed beef has more omega-3s, just because the cattle will eat the grass, and the grass has the omega-3 fatty acids in it. So omega-3 fatty acids make a food anti-inflammatory. Your monounsaturated fats make your food anti-inflammatory. So we have fat. We know that on the food label, which we'll discuss in a minute, we have total fat, we have saturated fat, we have trans fat, we have mono, we have poly. So there's a lot of information on there, but our monounsaturated fats are one that actually will decrease the inflammation in our system. So we need to focus on those. What are anti-inflammatory or more monounsaturated fats? We have olive oil, saffron oil, sunflower oil. Those are the three that are high up there. And then what else is anti-inflammatory are foods that have your phytochemicals / phytonutrients. So foods that are excellent sources, again, we'll hit on the omega-3s. Like I had said, I pointed out earlier, the chia seeds, your soy, walnuts are huge. The fattier fish, as shown here, are high up on the high end of the omega-3s. The chia seeds, we'll just talk about these again. I don't know if anyone has played with them or used them, but the chia seeds are the little black, they look like poppy seeds. And the really great thing about them, they really don't have a flavor. They add crunch to everything. They do absorb liquid. So if you put them in anything, they will absorb that liquid. So you can put them in a salad dressing and they'll absorb a little bit of the vinegar in the salad dressing, make it more of a thick, viscous salad dressing rather than putting as much oil on it. So there's a lot of great recipes out there for things like that. Flaxseed, and that's been around, we've talked about flaxseed for years and years and years. And flaxseed is actually better absorbed if it is ground. It's easier to extract the nutrients out of it if it's already ground before we consume it. Whereas chia seeds do not need to be ground. So flax seeds, you can grind them at home with a coffee grinder, or you can go ahead and buy them pre-ground at the grocery store. So those are your megas. And then your monos, like we had said, the olive oil, we find a lot in your nuts and seeds. So there's peanut butter, but there's just nuts and seeds. All nuts and seeds have monounsaturated fat. They have a high amount of fat per se, period, overall total fat. And back in the day when fat was the big no-no and everybody was eliminating fat left and right and trying to get that out of their diet, they're actually eliminating what we need. We need fat. We need fat to help our fat soluble vitamins to help absorb those. So fat is needed, but saturated fat is not needed, which we'll be covering in a minute. So peanut butter, though it had a lot of fat in it, has mostly monounsaturated fat, which is a good anti-inflammatory. We have one vegetable really, like the avocado is very high in the monounsaturated fat. The thing about the fats is that they're very calorically dense. So though these foods are really good and great to provide us with a lot of the monounsaturated, If we are trying to cut back on calories or trying to watch our weight, this can be that is a very concentrated form of calories. So 1 gram of fat has 9 calories. 1 gram of a carbohydrate or protein have only 4. So that's what makes a fat. So if we're going to have our fat, which we need our fat, we need to make that fat count. So focusing more on monounsaturated fats and less, and we'll get away from the saturated fats, which we'll talk about momentarily. All right, so phytochemicals. Phytochemicals are actually there in your fruits and your vegetables. We call them phytonutrients, but these phytochemicals are what give your fruits and vegetables the color that they are. So that's why we want you to have a variety of different color on your plate. We say to consume the rainbow, because each color is a different phytonutrient, and those phytonutrients all will protect. They can protect us from cancer. Right here, phytonutrients can stop the formation of potential cancer-causing substances, which is the carcinogen. They can stop carcinogens from attacking cells, attacking other healthy cells, and they can help cells stop and wipe out any like cancer-like changes that these cells will undergo. So phytochemicals are huge and important, or the phytonutrients. So getting the rainbow of color, all colors count. We in the world, everyone is picking on the white foods, and I understand that with white breads, but I don't eat a potato because a potato is white, or I don't eat cauliflower because it's white. And when we do that, we're missing out on a huge bucket of the phytonutrients. Okay, so phytonutrients are different than your vitamins and your minerals. Okay, vitamins and minerals are substances that our body uses to function, that we need them. Your vitamin C, we have vitamin A, so our body requires them and needs them. Phytonutrients are like the extra caveat to the fruits and vegetables that you're taking in. It's a protector. So, okay. So all the phytonutrient rich foods, I said fruits and vegetables, and we can get all the color in the world that we can get. And it's fine to some days to have all the same color. You can have a whole plate of, I just referenced cauliflower and potatoes are both white, and that's okay. You can have that, but just trying to give variety throughout the week is the key. So eating more fruits and vegetables and other plant-based foods and legumes or quinoa can reduce your cancer risk by as much as 40%. So that is why we kind of now focus our plates on filling it mostly with fruits, vegetables, and that plant-based items, such like legumes, the vegetables, the fruit, quinoa, and we kind of shun away from the processed foods, and we absolutely shun away from too much red meat, as we talked about, processed meat we talked about, because those meats they can be inflammatory. Beef, pork, red meat, period, can actually be inflammatory. So I always say pork is in there, and people get pork is the other white meat, right? That's what marketing says, but pork is a red meat, so it does fit in that category. So I tell people to remember anything that doesn't cluck or swim, pretty much is a red meat. So we're going to cut back on those. Okay, so the benefits. These are just a couple of them that we have out there that are in our popular food. Your beta carotene and other substances that are in our fruits and our vegetables. So that's what's huge. That is what's huge. Our red wines. Now, we go back and forth with alcohol and cancer prevention. And what the guidelines do say is that, if we're going to have any type of alcohol, it should be one serving. Females are allowed to have 1 serving per day. And men are allowed to have 2 per day if they do choose to drink. Now, post-treatment and post-breast cancer, I tell all my patients that you talk to your physician about that, because they know your case better than I do. They know exactly what your type of cancer was, and for some, it's not good to be consuming alcohol. Okay, so Going from the wine, we have our polyphenols, we have that in tea. We have our cruciferous vegetables, which is your broccoli, your Brussels sprouts, your kale, your collard greens, all of those. And all of these things will provide, those are I want to say the heavy hitters of our anti-inflammatories out there. So that covers the gamut of all the fruits and the vegetables that we can be eating. But other things like our tea, coffee does have phytonutrients in it as well. There's studies that do show consuming coffee, they say, you know, at one point it was up to 6 cups a day was even more beneficial, but it's just a ridiculous amount of caffeine, but we can do decaffeinated, still counts. So coffee is beneficial, but what we're going to find out is what we put in the coffee can be kind of negate what the coffee is providing us. Okay, so the anti-inflammatory shopping list, like I said, I have provided that with some of you that I've met individually, and I do provide this with individual consults. So if we do meet, you will get a list and we'll get the food label, but this is just a quick shopping guide. If you go on to the American Institute for Cancer Research, they have their shopping list. They have a great compiled foods that fight cancer, and you will find on there, and on this anti-inflammatory shopping list, I pulled those foods in because all fruits and all vegetables are anti-inflammatory. Most of them. Coconut has more saturated fat than not, so coconut is really not anti-inflammatory, but everything else is. And so filling our plate with more anti-inflammatory is going to be the benefit. Okay, so we have our fruits, and this is pretty much taken from the list. So when I said I pulled from the American Institute of Cancer Research, the things that are bold on here, those are the ones that are actual cancer fighters. All of these fruits on here are anti-inflammatory. Now, these are the heaviest of hitters. So when I always tell people, if you don't see your favorite fruit on this list, don't panic. Doesn't mean that it's not good. It just means it's not like the heaviest of the hitters. Okay, so we all know that blueberries, and we all know that cherries, and we all know that I don't think that everybody knows that apples are really high in cancer prevention, because, you know, when I talk to people about fruits and vegetables, and, you know, we talk about, like, you know, an orange, like what is an orange, you know, good for? And everyone's like, well, vitamin C. And what's a banana? Well, potassium. But then I'm like, what is an apple good for? And everyone's like, well, pretty much nothing. Or, but an apple is very high in a phytonutrient called quercetin, and that is a very good cancer fighter. So apples are good. Apples are great. Another thing that surprises a lot of my patients are watermelon is on this list, but watermelon is bright, you know, red or pink. So that's a beautiful color. But watermelon is also a good provider of vitamin C, which a lot of people don't know. They just think it's water. So watermelon, which is one of my favorite, just a FYI, that's my favorite fruit out there. It's huge. It's a benefit. It's just not water like we thought. Okay, vegetables. As we see here, you know, one thing I do want to touch on though is that we get in these kicks. So kale, for instance, and kale is great, and kale is, and spinach and tomatoes, but one food or one food period, fruit, vegetable, one food product out there is not the golden nugget. All right, it takes a balance of all of them. So I have had, and I've legitimately had some clients that will, you know, they eat this beautiful kale salad and, you know, do great, and then, you know, have a bottle of wine, or have, you know, a 12-inch chicken breast that's deep fried, you know. So one food item does not negate everything else. So it's a balance of everything, a balance of it all. And if you look on here, there's the color, all colors. Like, for instance, for cabbage, you know, get real creative and use red and green cabbage, not just stick with the green. The bell peppers, you know, we are all thinking just green bell peppers, but you know, the tricolor peppers now, they're out there. They have little baby ones that are amazing, and those are so good and so sweet that they can just be eaten, just popped right out of the bag after you wash them. So that's where your vegetables, and the three that are proven cancer fight, or four, I should say, that are on here: the broccoli, the kale, the spinach, and your tomatoes. Okay, legumes, nuts, and seeds. So black beans, chickpeas, anything, any of them actually are going to be beneficial. The soybean, edamame, the tofu, the walnuts, those are all, if we look about that, those are all your high omega-3 fatty acids. So high in omega-3. So those are cancer fighters, just like your chia seeds. And then you have your, like those legumes, which, your navy beans, peanut butter is one, and incorporating all of those. These, you've got two different things. You've got your legumes. So you've got the beans, the dry beans, like your pintos and your kidney beans. And those are a good source of carbohydrates. They're a great source of protein. They give you great iron and they give you magnesium. And then they also are providing you some protein. Then you have your nuts and your seeds, which are also that you're anti-inflammatory. They can do that. But remember, those are the more high calorically, they have more calories per serving, per ounce if we do that. So just if we're being mindful and watching the calories that we consume, just have to watch those are not a free product. Okay. The oils, we talked about that. I talked about that. The safflower oil, the sunflower oil, your extra virgin olive oil. Absolutely. Those are your ones that provide anti-inflammatory properties. Your fish and your shellfish, like I said, all of your fattier fish, your cold water fish, so the cod, the tuna, your shrimp, or salmon is on there. So those are the ones that will provide you with the most omega-3s. Your grains, believe it or not, we have grains that do provide some of your anti-inflammatory properties. On here, a lot of people, quinoa is a big grain now that it seems to be more out there in the public, and more people are trying it and using it, liking it. I find with that, steeping it, if you're not familiar with it, you steep it like you do rice, and it's really steeps best if we steep it in something like a vegetable broth or a chicken stock. I've steeped it in bone broth before, so I get the benefit of the bone broth and the extra protein in that. But quinoa, interesting enough, is one. Quinoa and soy, if we're talking about protein, are the two non-animal products that provide you with complete proteins, meaning all of your essential amino acids that you need. So quinoa is a great way to add, it's a complete food. So we have carbohydrates in it, we have protein in it, there's not any fat in it unless we add it, which basically when you cook, you do add a little bit of oil in it. You can saute it a little bit before you steep it. So grains do provide us with some anti-inflammatory properties. So they're not completely off target or off limits. And there you are, there's your herbs and your spices. So all of them, we use them on a daily basis. So just add them willy-nilly and free will to anything. Garlic has been around for a very long time. As we know, it's the health benefits of that one. And the turmeric, that's new to the market. And again, add that as a fresh herb rather than just taking supplements. I prefer it that way. And it doesn't have to be that, like I said, that's just not your golden nugget. That's just not the be all do all right now. So enjoy all of them on a daily basis. Okay. So we talked about anti-inflammatory. That's all the foods that provide you protection. And then we have two foods there's other foods, but two foods I like to focus on are two items that actually will cause chronic inflammation or actually contribute to that inflammation. Saturated fats and sugar. Those are the two things. So foods highest in saturated fat, butter, your beef. If we look at the cuts of beef, the most ideal, this one is a ribeye, and that's the most sought after. Everybody's like, oh, I would love the ribeye steaks because of how tender it is. But if we look at the steaks, that marbling in that, if you see the white marbling, the streaks in that, that's the saturated fat. So that's what makes it so tasty, is because when that cooks down, that saturated fat melts and it just keeps the meat moist. So the ribeye steak is going to be high. I don't have on here, but I did talk about the chicken. The skin on the chicken is where all the saturated fat is. The thigh has a little bit more saturated fat, nothing astronomical. We used to tell people you'd only have to eat chicken breast, and people are like, I'm so tired of chicken breast. But if you when I meet with my patients and my clients, I calculate it. I give them a saturated fat budget. And so I calculate based on their caloric need, and I give them that budget so they know, okay, let's not go over this much saturated fat in a day. Full fat cheese, again, is going to have the saturated fat in it. I usually recommend anytime that you can get a reduced fat cheese, I would go ahead and do that, because you're saving the total fat, but calories, but you're saving, it's mostly saturated fat that you save. And, you know, if you might save 1 or 2 grams, and that doesn't sound like a lot of savings, but your allowance for saturated fat is not a lot. It's not like 50 grams as far as like total fat. It's a lot less. So anywhere that you can save 1 gram of fat here, or saturated fat here, or saturated fat there, it's going to add up. Full fat dairy, there's milk on here, and there's the coconut, like we had talked about. Coconut was the big thing. How many years ago was that? It wasn't too long ago that everybody was just doing coconut everything and putting coconut oil in everything, on everything, in place of everything. It was just, they thought that was, you know, the answer. And obviously, years later, that was just like the little trend back then, and it's absolutely not part of that. Okay. And then our bacon, you know, we know that's one. And people are shocked when I tell them that it's not just pork bacon, but turkey bacon as well. Turkey bacon does have saturated fat in it, so we have to watch that. Turkey bacon is really out there for, I feel is out there for people who don't like pork or have an aversion to pork, but like bacon. So they can, or just don't want red meat. But the turkey bacon is not any better. It's not no health benefits from turkey bacon. And then your desserts are going to have more of your saturated fats in them. So just be mindful of those. Okay.
Good question,
right.
Lisa.
Oh yeah.
For the coconut, does that mean coconut milk as well?
Coconut milk has a small amount of saturated fat in it. It does. You can look for some that will have none, that will have 0 fat in it. If you can find those, it's going to have 0 saturated fat in it. But some of the real coconut milk they're going to have saturated fat because it is the milk from the coconut. It's not as high as bad, but it does have some. Good, excellent question. Excellent question. All right, so the added sugar. The American Institute for Cancer Research.
One more question.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, don't be
before you move on. What about the coconut flakes, the raw coconut flakes?
That's saturated. So we have to be mindful of those. They should have a label, and we're going to hit a label. I'm going to show you where to look for on the label. But those raw coconut flakes are saturated fat. Excellent question. Yeah. So those are 2 very good questions. But the coconut, you know, the only thing that the coconut oil is good for is like our elbows. It's really good for like damaged hair too. Apparently, I haven't gone that route because I haven't bought coconut oil, but that's what it's good for. Topical use, not ingesting. All right. So we go with that one. So the added sugar. The guidelines are for females that we should not have more than 6 teaspoons of added sugar in a day. And for males, they get 9 teaspoons. So I know it sounds like a lot, because if we do the math on that, if we break teaspoons into tablespoons, there's 3 teaspoons in 1 tablespoon. So that's basically 2 tablespoons of added sugar in a day. So if we can visualize what that looks like, that's a lot. A teaspoon of sugar is a sugar cube. So have 6 of those. It's a lot. That seems like a lot. Okay. But we're consuming as consumers more added sugar than we ever really knew behind the scenes, until now we have the new food label. So I think, yep, good. So the new food label, and this has been out, it's been out since the beginning of the year. So it should be relative on all food products now. It's been out since 2020, not 2021. So this is what I have everyone focus on. You know, we have the label, we have the old label that is on the left, and then we have the new one on the right. So the old label will just, so for instance, if you look, you can visually see the difference. The difference visually is calories, okay? Serving size is bold on the new one, so we can immediately see that. We don't have to get the readers on, it's dark, we can get those. And then the calories are bold. It's like, hey, this has 230 calories. Whereas before it kind of said nondescript. So the 2/3 of a cup of this is going to have 230 calories. So that's in your face, that's bold. The fat and the saturated fat and trans fat, all the same. They're all completely the same, okay? On a label, I don't want people to pay attention. I don't educate people on percentages at all, because the percentages are based on somebody who's consuming a 2,000 calorie diet, period. And I don't have a lot of people that are consuming 2,000 calories. I have a lot of females that consume less, a lot of men that consume more, but 2,000 is the average, okay, diet if we do that. So percentage wise, I think that's just a percentage of daily value. I just think it's a wash. It's not really important for me. I don't educate on that one. So our total fat's on there. So we know the saturated fat. So this product, whatever this may be, I'm going to consume it. I'm going to get 1 gram of saturated fat. Okay. Depending on what your budget is, I will tell you, I know what my budget is. And my label of half and half for my coffee in the morning, I don't mess with that. And a tablespoon of half and half has 1 gram of saturated fat. Period. Okay. So look at those and they add up throughout the day. If I grab a string cheese, I know like what it was string cheese that I get has 3 grams of saturated fat. So without even eating a whole meal, I had 1 gram in my coffee, and then I had the 3 had 4 grams, and I haven't even eaten food, big, like a whole meal. So just be mindful of those on a daily basis. Then we ease down, cholesterol is the same, the sodium is listed on there. Then we talk about the total carbohydrates. And right there, you'll see it's broken down in the new label. You'll have your total carbohydrates, your fibers on there is the same. But here is like the best information on the food label as far as you being your own consumer advocate as far as the food product. It gives you total sugars. Total sugars are anything that provides you with sugar in that product. We know fruit provides sugar, milk provides sugar. So we can look at a gallon of milk. You can look at a food label for milk, and it says it has 12 grams of sugar in plain white milk. And people used to freak out like, oh my God, it has the sugar, added sugar. There's no added sugar. That's sugar from the lactose, okay? So what we're wanting and what we're talking about on a daily basis, what we need to monitor is added sugar. And that's that line, that subcategory of total sugar. So in this food product, there's 12 grams of total sugar and 10 grams of added sugar. And added sugar is anything added that will alter the flavor of it. It doesn't have to alter it in a sweet flavor, but it just alters it. So here it is, 10 grams. Okay, so, well, what does that mean? Because Lisa's told you to watch teaspoons, right? The American Institute is like, so what do we do? So we're going to convert this. All right, so how we convert it, the conversion. So there's 4 grams of sugar for every teaspoon. All right, so 1 teaspoon, well, 4.2 grams. So every teaspoon, when you look at grams, you're going to divide the grams, the total grams, by the number 4. And this gives you, like if you had 10 divided by 4, it gives you 2.5 teaspoons. Then I can visualize that. I can visualize 2.5 sugar cubes. So whatever this product was that we're talking about, whatever it was, I know that that's going to give me almost half of my daily budget for my sugar, okay? You're going to find added sugar in so many peculiar, odd places that you never thought it was before. And this food label, we've been pushing for this change for years, and the manufacturers have been really resistant. And why are they resistant? Is because we are giving them more information that can actually potentially not want you to buy their product, basically. Okay, because if I have two potato chips in my hand, 2 bags of potato chips, and I look at, well, this one doesn't have any added sugar, but this one has, half a gram, or it has 2 grams. Say it has 2 grams of added sugar, which there are potato chips out there that have 2 grams, and they are the baked Lays. My daughter brought them to me. I've never liked baked Lays. I've never encouraged people to eat baked Lays, but if you look at baked Lays, there's 2 grams of added sugar. Doesn't seem like a lot, but if you do the math, 2 divided by 4 is a half. So it's a half a teaspoon of added sugar in a baked potato chip that is nonsense. Okay. So that's an easy elimination. Calorie wise are about the same. So what are we looking at? You know, they're saturated fat, but it's the added sugar. Okay. So eliminate that. And that just gives you more of the power to do that on every single food label. There's added sugar in, obviously, in ketchups, in pasta sauces, and salad dressings. It can be in some Chinese entrees, like frozen entrees. I've even seen it. So you really pay attention to those numbers. And because you can be really good and say, no, Lisa, I don't take my teaspoon. I don't add any sugar to my coffee, and I don't add any sugar to my tea. But you're getting it as a consumer, like you're getting it in things that you wouldn't even expect. So, that was it. I didn't realize that I was gonna be done with that like that quickly. But so those are the things. So the take home message is, one, we're gonna add more color, more fruits, more vegetables. Beautiful. Keep adding that. All right. You can't go wrong with fruits and vegetables unless they are coated in sugar and baked in, in a pie crust that has a lot of saturated fat in it. But fruits and vegetables, increase those. Read every label that you have. Look for those grams of added sugar. Look for the saturated fat. Get the one that fits the best, that has the least amount of those offenders. Okay. And that's it. Plain and simple.
There is a question about fish oil supplements. Would you recommend those?
Yeah, if you're not taking in yes, you can. A good brand is just escaped me. I'll give me a second. But yes, I would recommend them. Oh, I can see it. You give me a minute and I'll think of it. But fish oil supplements are okay to do that. You can also buy omega-3 fatty acid supplements. You can do that. There's no particular, like, the vitamin C, an RDA, like you have an RDA or an RDI for vitamin C. You have all your daily allowances, but there's not one for fish oil, because fish oils and omega-3s, they do different things in the body. Like, for instance, the omega-3s, when I had LASIK surgery, they recommended I take XYZ because the dry eyes, that would help with the dry eyes. But, some cardiologists will want you to do this much. So there's really no like hardcore number for that one, but those are fine. Okay, and I will try to think of a supplement.
Yeah, it'll come to you as soon as we finish.
As soon as I say goodbye.
So what are your thoughts on intermittent fasting and inflammation?
There's a lot of good stuff that comes out of intermittent fasting. There's more and more research being done on it. I'm not going to say there's not research as far as I'm thinking about the question, does intermittent fasting provide more anti-inflammatory effects? If that's the question, I'm not sure, but no. Intermittent fasting is just a window of opportunity of when you can eat your food, and you can, some people do a 6-hour window, some people do an 8-hour window or a 10-hour window. It's all completely, however you want to do it, basically. But what we do in that 12 or 13 or 14-hour window can be some of these things. So no, the diet itself doesn't improve inflammation, unless that's more recent. If that was the question that I got out of, if I answered that right, if that was the right question, please let me know.
Okay, what about coconut creamer? Is there an alternative creamer that you would recommend?
You know what? I'm all about the taste. So if you are allowed some saturated fat in a day, and so if you like the flavor, like I said, I like the flavor of real half and half in my coffee. I don't mess with anything else. I'll forego having coffee if I don't have. But if you like the flavor of coconut, then you take into consideration that's your luxury item for the day. Like I know my cup of coffee, I'm taking away a gram of saturated fat every morning, and I'm okay with that because I love that. That's my luxury item. So there's other creamers out there, like the coconut, there's coconut, there is obviously the soy, there's almond milk ones, but I want you to look at those carefully because there are a lot of sweetened ones. It's been hard to find just a plain almond milk creamer. I haven't really looked really hard because I have no interest in that. Like I said, I want my 1 gram, I want my real coffee, but they have a lot of added sugar. So if it's a vanilla flavored or, what other flavors are hazelnut flavor, the flavoring in there, they're going to more than likely add some sugar to that. So again, that's your sugar budget if you want to use it that way. But, if we look at some of the like sugar in like our fun things like Starbucks coffee or Frappuccinos, I mean, you'll be blown away. So any of the creamers that you like, I mean, that they're all the same. They all are pretty much the same.
Thank you. What about what are your thoughts for eating soy and tangerines, and are they harmful for women with estrogen positive cancer taking tamoxifen?
No, the tangerines, we're not, I mean, are we eating a lot of tangerines? I mean, a tangerine a day. But the soy, we used to say to eliminate soy from our diet if you are ER positive. The research now, and it will show you that on the American Institute for Cancer Research, it does say that it is safe. What they're discovering is that phytoestrogen in that soy, some of it actually does the work like tamoxifen as an estrogen blocker. So what the recommendations for that is that you're allowed to have up to 3 servings of whole soy a day. So what is whole soy? That is like your edamame, that is soy milk, that is tempeh, that is tofu. Those things are whole soy. So those are okay and those are safe.
Thank you. What about turmeric?
Turmeric?
Yeah,
Turmeric?
I knew that.
Yeah.
But the question is, what about turmeric supplements? Can it interfere with tamoxifen?
That's an excellent question. That has been brought up several times. High dosage of that supplement I haven't been proven, but they have recommended not high dosage of that supplement. What they really want us to do is to take it in the form of the turmeric, of the spice, eating it in our foods, not consuming it in a pill form. Because we have to remember that all supplements are not regulated by the FDA. Not. So we don't know exactly how much turmeric is in that supplement. We don't know where it's been manufactured, if it has any turmeric at all. So, really the best thing is to buy it. You can buy it, you can buy the raw, the little turmeric piece, like little, it's like ginger. You can do that and use that, have that at home, or you can have the powder. And, you can use that in cooking anytime, rice, anywhere, you can put it on anything. If you like the flavor of it, it's not the golden nugget. I want you to remember that. So, if we're like, eating all this turmeric, but then our diet is poor, that's not going to come back. It should be a balance, all of it. If you like turmeric, that's great. If you like garlic, that's great. Let's have a whole big party dish and put it in our quinoa, in our black beans, and put some cilantro on it. All those things I just said are on that anti-inflammatory list. I'll do the benefit.
All right, thank you. One last question that we have is for fish oil supplements. What's the recommended ratio for omega-3 to omega-6?
Oh, omega-6. We want you, I'm going to have to look that one up again, but we want you, what I used to tell my patients, unless the recommendations are changed, 6 to 2, I believe that's what I used to tell people, but I can look that up. Don't quote me. It's been a while, but in the supplement itself, we should just look for straight omega-3s. We don't need any omega-6s in this supplement, really, because we take enough of that in our diet. Omega-6s are in like your vegetable oils and in that kind of stuff, corn oils and canola oils, that they have those are all omega-6s.
Okay, great. Thank you. I believe that's all the questions that I'm seeing. Like I mentioned, we will have this this is being recorded, so we will post this a little bit later. on our YouTube channel, on our Facebook channel. You can go back and watch it. Also share it with others that you think may benefit from this information. We thank you for your time today. Please visit myturningpoint.org calendar of events. You'll see some of the things coming up. October is thank you. You just gotta thank you. Great information, Lisa.
You're welcome. Thank you so much.
As everybody knows, yes, I will share yes, I will show you. You'll get a survey at the afterwards, and it'll have the link to the YouTube video. But I was just saying, October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and there's a lot of activities going on for Turning Point. So just check it out, myturningpoint.org. If you go to our calendar of events, these are some things that maybe you would want to participate in. But we thank you for your time. Lisa does see Turning Point patients one-on-one. So if you do want to schedule an appointment, a virtual appointment, just reach out to Sandy or Emily at the front desk. Just call Turning Point and we can get that appointment scheduled for you. So thank you, everyone. What's that?
I said, that'd be awesome. We can see everybody.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone, so much for your time. We appreciate it. Have a great weekend. Thank you, Teresa. Bye.
Bye-bye.